What are you doing? Can't you see? I'm making wine! If you really want to make some great wine, you should try this richly thematic competitive worker placement board game called Viticulture. You can hire workers, harvest grapes, make different wines, and sell them to your customers. Wow, this is pretty good. Look at the little grape. Look how cute it is. Look at this. Mushy, mushy, mushy. Squishy, squishy, squishy. Look, just stop, please. I've got a bunch of grapes and I'm not afraid to use them. Viticulture is a worker placement board game where players take the role of hard-working winemakers who inherit a meager vineyard and dream of building the most successful winery in all of Italy. Viticulture Essential Edition is designed by Jamey Stegmaier, Alan Stone and Morten Pedersen. It is a worker placement board game for 1 to 6 players that's published by Stonemaier Games, and each game takes 45 to 90 minutes. A worker placement board game is where players take their workers, they place them on action spaces and activate them in order to perform a particular action of their choice. More often than not, these action spaces are often blocked off by other players who've decided to take the same action. The aim of the game is for players to race to gain the most victory points. The final round is triggered when the first player reaches 20 victory points. Set up for a game of Viticulture, give each player their wooden tokens and player boards of the matching colour. Place the victory point marker in the start space of the victory point track. Place the bottle on the lira symbol of the residual payment track. Shuffle the 4 different coloured decks and place them on the respective spaces on the board. The green deck contains all the different vine cards. Yellow deck contains the summer visitor cards. The purple deck contains all of the wine orders that players need to fulfill. And the blue deck contains all the winter visitor cards. Each player places their 5 lira, 6 lira and 7 lira field cards on their player board. Each player then draws a random mama and Tom Hiddleston Papa looking card. Looky, 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 looky. Players firstly take the resources as indicated on the mama card. Players then take the resources listed at the top of the Papa card. Players then decide which of the 2 resources they'd like to take out of the options provided below. Players then shuffle the rooster tokens, draw one out randomly, and that player gets the first player marker. Each round in a game of Viticulture takes place across a whole year. It's broken down into 4 distinct seasons. In spring, beginning with the player with the grape token, players place their rooster in the position in the order in which they'd like to play for the current year. Placing your rooster in the top position means you're guaranteed to go first and get your pick of the actions to take in the subsequent phase. If you take the number 2 position, you get to draw a vine card. If you take the number 3 position, you get to draw a wine order card. If you take the number 4 position, you get a lira. If you take the number 5 position, you can draw a summer card or a winter card immediately. If you take the 6th position, you can take a victory point. And if you're in the 7th position, you get an extra worker for that year. Bonuses that are given become more valuable as you move further down the wake-up chart. If you're playing a 1 to 2 player game, you only use the first space. If you're playing a 3 to 4 player game, you use the first 2 spaces. If you're playing a 5 to 6 player game, you use all 3 spaces. Note here that in a 3 to 6 player game, the second player to use this action garners an extra bonus. The summer spaces are indicated by the colour yellow, whereas the winter spaces are indicated by the colour blue. In summer, players can place their workers here to draw a vine card. We've got a piece of paper. Oh, thanks, and pen. Excellent. Now I'm going to draw this vine card. Cabernet Sauvignon, oh my god. Alright, here goes nothing. Try my best. What do you think? In a 3 to 6 player game, the second player to use this action space would draw 2 vine cards. Players can use this action space to play and resolve the effect
of a summer visitor card. Players can use this space to give a wine tour to gain 2 lira. Players can sell at least 1 grape or buy and sell 1 field in exchange for lira. When selling a field, players look at the lira cost of the card, flip it over to the side which says sold, and take that amount of lira from the bank. Players can sell grapes from their crush pads by looking at the values written here in the center. Players can take this action to plant a vine in one of their fields.
What are you doing? Oh, I'm just planting my vine card.
When planting vines, players firstly need to look at the building structure requirements. This Pinot needs the trellis in order to be built. This Merlot requires the irrigation building, and this Cabernet Sauvignon requires the trellis and the irrigation in order to be built. Players need to look at the maximum vine values that each field can hold. This symbol here means you're planting 1 white grape variety. To work out if you've exceeded the maximum vine value of a particular field, just simply add the numbers up shown on the bottom of the vine cards. Once the vines have been planted in the fields, they cannot be removed. They can only be removed if you've built the yoke structure or you have a summer or winter visitor card that allows you to do so. In this first field, I have 2 different grape varieties, one growing 4 red and the other one growing 1 white. In this field, I have 2 different grape varieties, but with a total of 4 red and 1 white. Players can use this action space to build 1 structure in their winery.
Wow, look at the awesome variety of wooden components that you get. Meeple, windmillable, anapple, structurable, tasting roomable, yokeable, bottleable, cylinder, grande meeple. Building different structures in your vineyard provides you with different bonus effects. The trellis, the irrigation are essential for planting certain varieties of vines. Building a yoke allows a player to uproot 1 vine from their field and provides an additional harvesting space. Building a cottage allows a player to draw an additional summer or winter visitor card during the fall season. Building a windmill means that whenever you plant a vine, you gain 1 victory point. That's max 1 victory point per year. Building the tasting room means that whenever you give a vineyard tour and you have at least 1 wine token in your cellar, you gain 1 victory point per year. Upgrading a medium cellar allows you to store red, white, and blush wines of a value of 6. Upgrading to a large cellar means you can store wine of values 9. I'm really loving this worker placement game. During the fall, players invite special visitors to their winery who often bring special abilities and ways to improve their vineyard. Players who select this action space can play and resolve the effects of a winter card. Players can use this space to pay 4 lira to hire an additional worker. Players can use this space to draw a wine order card. Players can use this space to harvest 1 field in their winery and place them as tokens on their grape crush pads. Players then select the field that they wish to harvest. I'm going to use this middle field here. This middle field has a total red grape value of 4 and a white value of 1. Harvesting them, I place them on my crush pads as shown. Note here that if a player uses this space for its additional bonus, it can't be the same field. Each field on a player's board can only be harvested once per year. Oh, winter phase, eh? I know, I'm gonna harvest one of those fields. Can you please pass me 2 grape tokens? Okay. Very thematic indeed. I think I may have eaten my grape token. Can I have another one? Players can use this action space to convert grape tokens on their crush pads into wine. 4 different types of wine you can make: red, white, blush, and sparkling. In order to make red wine, you take your counter from the crush pad, so this has a value of 3, and convert it into the same value wine. If you're doing that for your white wine, I do the same. I take my value of 1 and convert it into a white wine with a value of 1. To make some blush wine, I need 1 red grape token combined with 1 white token. So here I could combine my 1 white with my 4 red
to make one 5 blush token value wine. Note here that I would need to have built the medium cellar in order to make the blush wine. Finally, if you want to make some sparkling wine, you need to use 2 red grape tokens mixed with 1 white token. So here I would take my 1 white token of 1, my 2 red tokens of a total value of 7 to make a sparkling wine of 8. Note here that I would also need to have built the large cellar in order to make sparkling wine. Players can use this space to fill a wine order card by transferring the necessary tokens from the vineyard and gaining the necessary effects. When an order has been filled, players can move the wine bottle to the position on the residual payment track, and at the end of each year, that player gets that many lira. During the winter or summer season, players can place workers on this space to gain 1 lira. This space has no restriction to the amount of workers that can be placed on it.
If a player has the grande worker, they can override an action that has already been used by another player.
Wow, so end of round upkeep, I age my grapes, collect 1 residual payment, age my wine, retrieve all my workers, 1 lira, and they are all orange. Oh, hey guys, it's pretty interesting what you're doing. Do you think there's room for 1 more player? Oh, sorry, I don't know if we have enough space right now. We kind of already just started. Yeah, I think there's already enough of us playing. Maybe in the next game. Uh-oh.
I'm the grande worker. I'll show you worker placement.
And no one can take my spot again. What you playing here? Wow, you guys are doing pretty well.
At the end of the year, players can age their wine and grape tokens by moving them up the corresponding tracks. Notice, if a player doesn't have the large cellar, their wine can only be built to a maximum of 6.
Oh, is it time to calculate the age of our wine and age our grape, eh?
Better put my glasses on. And I have 6 and 9 grapes.
And I calculate them together, and then I write down
On my little paper. And what was that? That was 9 times 7.
5, then 4, and that's if I age the grape for 2 years, and then 5 years, and then our expected production will be quite large. And
Final total? Oh yes, this the wine. I've worked it out. I've worked out the wine, and yeah. Are we ready for the next round?
Players retrieve their workers from the board, collect any residual payments, discard down to 7 cards, and pass the first player grape token in a counterclockwise direction.
Oh, thanks. But if I went first, doesn't that mean this token goes to you? Because if you get the grape token, don't you get to choose where you want to go on the wake-up order track? But then I went first. Wait, no, that was on the wake-up order track. Just take it. That's clockwise, counterclockwise. Depending which way you're looking at it, maybe. But it was your turn. The order. Okay. I'm just gonna pass it to you. Counterclockwise. You pass the.
All right. I'm totally confused. This is the first time I played this game, and I just don't know.
What I really admire about Viticulture Essential Edition is that it's a very intuitive worker placement board game that's relatively easy to teach, and even easier to teach if you're familiar with other worker placement board games like Stone Age and Lords of Waterdeep. I really love the component quality. The meeples all have this really distinct shape and look to them, and the building structures have been carefully crafted, even down to the glass beads that you place in your cellars and in your grape crush pads, which allow you to see through them because they're actually clear. I also really love how the theme of winemaking really marries well with a lot of the mechanics. You plant the vines, you harvest the grapes, you age the grapes, and then you convert them into wine, and then you age the wine before you fulfill the orders. It really has this nice flow effect, and you feel like you are running this winery and you're producing these wines in order to meet consumer demands. I really like the starting turn order wake-up track and the fact that players decide whether they want to go first, and if they decide to not go first, the level of bonuses that you can get for going later in a particular round is really well balanced. Turn order really matters in this game, and especially planning out how you're going to select your action and when to select your action is really crucial for winning. In a two-player game, places or spaces can often be blocked out by the other player, especially if you really needed to fill those wine orders. Introducing the grande worker really allows a player to take one action per year that they really need, despite the fact that another player may have already taken that action. I think that's a really great element, especially at the two-player level. Timing when you're going to place your workers on a particular action space is important, because if you're playing in a 3 to 6 player game, going first isn't necessarily going to be the best, because if you take a particular action, you don't get a special bonus. However, if you're the second person, you get that additional bonus that can really enhance, where you're going. I love how the players determine the tempo of the game. Players can take a really relaxed seat back and, just plant those vines, harvest the grapes, age the wine, or they can really try aggressively to fulfill the wine orders and push the end game really, really quickly. And the fact that you're not pressured with the idea that there's only 7 rounds in an entire game before the game prematurely ends. This game can go as long as you want or as fast as you want. I love how your particular wine board has this very Euro-y effect. You're moving counters and you're aging your wine every year. And it really has this nice sense of engine building and engine optimization. There's lots of different avenues for winning, and every time you play this game, you see a lot more depth. This game scales really well, especially at a 2-player level. It still feels tight, there's a lot of tension, and you still get to evoke that theme of competitiveness and building a production line. I love how there's various modes of play. So if you want to do the solo variant, there's 8 different campaigns, and they're all equally challenging. There are some points to consider if you think about buying Viticulture. First of all, I would definitely recommend getting Viticulture, the Essential Edition. It has the rule upgrades, the grande workers, and tweaks to the winter and summer deck, so they're a little bit more balanced and a little bit more applicable to whatever stage of the game that you're playing. There's some element of randomness when you're playing this game when it comes to drawing the winter and summer cards. Some of their abilities can sometimes be a little bit overpowered when comboed together, but I think that this can be mitigated by players building the cottage and drawing the cards and choosing the ones they want to keep and ones they want to discard at the end of the year. If you're playing at the 5 to 6 player level, you need to probably think about adding another 30 minutes to the gameplay per player, and that can kind of balloon out and get a little bit long for people who don't want to sit around and wait for a game to end. But if you've got plenty of time to relax and you've got a bit of wine, then maybe that's something that doesn't really bother you. If you bought the older edition of Viticulture, it is really important to buy the upgrade pack with the extra stickers, and I think for people who have spent a lot of money on Viticulture, the original version of it, I think spending that extra money, yes, it'll make the gameplay better, but it seems a little bit unfair. In consumer final verdict, Viticulture is an easy-to-teach worker placement game that is richly thematic. It has immense replayability and scales incredibly well, and it has you reaching for that glass of wine every time you get it out to play. This is Danny. Thank you for joining me for another board game review at Board Game Sanctuary. If you really like my videos, please subscribe, and I hope to bring you more quality reviews soon. This is Danny signing out. Goodbye.